Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Math 20-1, Chapter 2, Lesson 1, Absolute Values. Today we're going to demonstrate an understanding of the absolute value of real numbers. So, the absolute value of a number is how far the number is from zero. Technically, it is the magnitude, or the amount of the number. So the absolute value symbol, those two little parallel lines. So the absolute value of 5 is 5 because you are 5 units, 5 inches, 5 centimeters, 5 miles, 5 chains from the origin. The absolute value of minus 7 is 7 units, or it's just 7 because I haven't told you what units we're dealing with here. Now, that's most of the lesson there. But I will say be careful of the absolute value symbols. Depending on the computer font or your math teacher, they might go the absolute value of 5 like this. I was taught to make them a little bit more of a slash, but I've seen computer fonts like this, and that looks a whole lot like 151. So please be careful and look at it and read it carefully and think about it. Now, typical question for you. Put 4 minus 3.1 minus 2 and 3 halves. Oh, sorry, the absolute value of 4, the absolute value of minus 3.1, the absolute value of minus 2, and the absolute value of 3 halves on a number line. Well, absolute value of 4 is here. Absolute value of minus 3.1 is here. Absolute value of minus 2 is here. And the absolute value of 3 halves, 1.5, is here. Okay? Now, why do we do that? Because we can use absolute values to find the distance between two numbers. For example, 1.9 and minus 4.2. Well, 1.9 is here, and minus 4.2 is about here. What's the absolute distance between them? Well, this is 4.2 units, and this is 1.9 units. That's 4.2 plus 1.9 is 6.1. Okay, remember that. Now, because here we just did an equation, we just did a math equation on a number line. Normally we don't do number lines in 20-1. I would give you an equation like this. So this is the absolute value of 3 plus 1. Now how do we solve that? Well, that's the absolute value of 4, which is 4. Okay. Now, the next one, absolute value of 6 plus 2. The absolute value of minus 6 plus 2, that's the absolute value of minus 4, which is 4. Okay? Remember what I said, be careful about the absolute value signs. They can look like 1s. Now, here, this third one. This is similar to the question we just did back here. This is the absolute value of minus 6 plus the absolute value of 2. That would be, well, the absolute value of 6 is 6. The absolute value of 2 is 2 for a total of 8. Okay? Now, so far so good? Well, I hope so. I want you to remember, think bed mass. Because these absolute values signs are actually brackets. Yes. You've seen brackets with round corners, brackets with square corners. You've seen seagull brackets. Here they just do straight lines, just to confuse you. Now, when I said bed mass, brackets, exponents, addition, brackets, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. So if you want to think of this as brackets, do everything inside the brackets. So this is absolute value of 5 minus 3. Actually, no, I'm going to be quiet. I'll pause the recording. You guys do these. Come back and we'll compare results, okay? So pause the recording. Welcome back. I got 2, 13, minus 1, and 10. So beware of order of operations. Okay? Now, the next set, here's where we're going, ooh, where does the absolute value brackets begin and end? So, some people, this is where some people go, okay, this is the start of the absolute value bracket, the end, start and end. I don't encourage you to do this, but if it helps you, go for it. So working on this one, the absolute value of 75 minus 12, that's the absolute value of 63, plus 3 times the absolute value of minus 4 minus 9, that's minus 13. Absolute value of 63 is 63, and 3 times the absolute value of minus 13. The absolute value of minus 13 is 13. 3 times 13 is 39. And then 60, that's 102, I believe. Okay? That's what I need you to be able to do. If you can do that, I'm happy. So here's a couple more. I'm going to do the green one with you, then I'm going to pause the recording and you do the red one or the one on the right. So, from left to right, the absolute value of minus 3 minus 5, that's the absolute value of minus 8, which is 8. Minus 4 times the absolute value of 8 plus negative 5, that's 8 minus 5, that's the absolute value of 3, that's 4 times 3, that's 12, so it's 8 minus 12, which is minus 4. Okay? Now, I'm going to pause the recording. You guys do the red one, or the one on the right, and we'll come back and talk about that. Welcome back. So when I did this, I went, my absolute values begin and end. So that's 4 times the absolute value of 3 plus 5, or 4 times 8. Anyway, the minus 11 minus 7, that's minus 18. 2 times the absolute value of minus 18 is 2 times 18, or 36. And I got a total of 68, not 64. God. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, yes, I can hear some of you screaming at me. Now, moving on. Here's the nasty ones. I'll do the one on the left with you. You guys do the one on the right on your own. So, chunking it, brackets. So the first chunk here, absolute value of 15 minus 11 is the absolute value of 4. 5 times the absolute value of minus 7 is 7. Minus the absolute value of minus 12 minus 7 is the absolute value of minus 5 minus 2. So this is 4 plus 35 over absolute value of minus 5 is 5 minus 2. So this is 39 over 3, which is 13. Okay. I did that kind of quickly. As I said, I expect you're following along, not copying it out. If you're copying it out, pause the recording. So that's how I did that one. Chunk it. 20-1, I don't have to explain chunking to you. Now, I'm going to pause the recording. I want you to do the purple one or the one on the right. Good luck. Welcome back. And note, I decided, good idea, emphasize where the absolute value brackets begin and end. Anyway, so that's the absolute value of 7 plus 4 plus 3 times the absolute value of minus 4, blah, 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 blah. I got 23 over 28. All right? That's the mathy stuff I need you to be able to do. Now, a couple of other examples. Solve absolute value of x squared plus 5x minus 8 when x equals minus 2. Well, here, you replace x with minus 2. Sorry, and then you solve. So this is the absolute value of minus 2 squared plus 5 times minus 2 minus 8. Every time I see x, I replace it with 2, or sorry, minus 2, and I solve. So it's absolute value bracket minus 2 squared. And please, if you're doing something like this on the calculator, bracket negative 2 close bracket squared, or bracket negative 2 square button is plus 4. Negative 2 times negative 2. Negative 2 squared. Mr. Calculator will just see the 2 and square it and leave the minus sign in front. So this is 4 minus 10 minus 8. So this is the absolute value of minus 14, which is just 14. Okay. Now for you guys to try. I'm going to pause the recording. Right, get that out of the way. Solve 3x squared minus 7x plus 8 when x equals 3. So I'm going to pause the recording. You give it a try. Welcome back. So every time I say x, I replaced it with 3, and I plugged it in and solved, and I got 14 again, just by coincidence. Okay? Now, that's most of this lesson, but there's one last thing I want to talk about. Now, recall square roots. The square root of 9 is plus 3 or minus 3 because bracket plus 3 close bracket squared equals bracket minus 3 close bracket squared equals 9. Here, we usually talk about the principal square root or the positive root, which is an absolute value. Okay? So, if you do this on your calculator, you notice the square root of 7 squared is the absolute value of 7, which is 7. But the absolute value, the square root of bracket minus, apologies, that square is supposed to be on the outside. My apologies, ladies and gentlemen. I meant to fix that. Sorry. There we go. The absolute value, the square root of minus 10 squared is the absolute value of minus 10, which is 10. So the square root and the square cancel out, and we end up with the positive or the absolute value of it. So square root of bracket 5 minus 9 squared is the absolute value of 5 minus 9, which is the absolute value of minus 4, which is 4. All right? So when we take the square root of something squared, we take the positive or absolute value. The trick there, and I'm going to ask you this in the classwork, or check your understanding in the quizzes, the square root of x squared is the absolute value of x, because x can be positive or negative. So note the trick here. So the square root of x squared will be the absolute value of x. Not a big deal, but something I expect you to know and be able to use. So let me show you. So for these, the square root of minus 3 minus 2 squared, that's the absolute value of minus 3 minus 2. Absolute value of minus 5, which is 5. All right? That's what I need you to know and remember. So I'm going to pause the recording. You do the other 3, and we'll come back and talk about them. Okay? Okay. Now here, the green one or the second one, absolute square root of 8 minus 11 squared is the absolute value of 8 minus 11, which is 3. The next one, square root of 2.2 minus 8.5 squared is the absolute value of 2.2 minus 8.5, or 6.3. The last one is a little bit sneaky. 6 minus 11 squared x squared. The absolute value of 6 minus 11 is 5. The absolute value of x squared is the absolute value of x, because you don't know if x is positive or negative, so you have to leave it in the absolute value signs. Sneaky little thing I'm going to test you on. All right? Now, that's it for this lesson. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. Otherwise, check your understanding. Good luck.